All right, welcome to Insights as a Service, the podcast that aims to help MSPs get ahead. And today, Nick Phillips,
G'day.
that guy, and I are doing that by talking about voice and why it matters, how to incentivize it, all that sort of good stuff. But we should probably point out that because this is an afternoon filming, usually it's sort of a bit earlier, we are having a couple of beverages. And also I was just reading the news about the Ukraine situation and it's got me down. So I thought, why not offset that by having a drink?
Yeah, makes
There you
sense.
go. Professional.
COVID cases over here hit a new record today, 6,000. It's like,
Oh, really?
It's like an extra 3,000 on yesterday. So it's a massive jump.
What's the projections? What are they reckon it's going to get to and when?
No idea. I don't trust any of those analysts because they have been able to forecast ejection so far.
Okay, well, that's grim. So great, sad news to start off with. But what we're going to talk about today is a conversation that actually came up with Nigel Moore from Tech Tribe, which we recorded a couple of weeks ago. Will be out in what remain like 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. And so we published the chat we had with, I had with Nigel Moore, but we talked a little bit about voice and when it makes sense for MSPs to pitch it and in what format, whether they sell it themselves or whether they refer it to a trusted telco partner. His view was that there's a scale you reach, maybe I think he said 50 plus staff, where it makes sense at that point. You've probably got the internal capabilities, the resources, the skill set to to productize it, to support it, to provision it, to understand it. Before that, you better just partner with someone. And that kind of got me thinking, maybe we should talk through how you can make either of those situations or solutions work well, and how you can incentivize each of the stakeholders to make it work. So I don't know, Nick, should we start with maybe the referral scenario where you don't want to sell voice directly, but actually, you know what? Let's talk about why you should care about voice.
Yeah.
So from your point of view, what's in it for the MSP? What are the critical wins that come from having a voice offering or someone you can trust to deliver voice to your clients?
Yeah. So obviously the first one is churn minimization. So you don't want to keep your customer churn low. So making customers sticky by offering as many services as possible. Telco services like voice make up a number of elements that you go to market with your customers. Flowing off that, you've obviously got increased revenue. That's going to be a great benefit for you. That can come in either direct billing or by rebate. And then finally, off there, you want to protect your customer base from people out there poaching your customers, which ties in with that stickiness. But again, you want to make sure that they're so embedded with you and that your offering is so much more compelling than anyone else in the market.
Yeah, I think so when you think about the convergence of telcos and MSPs, which is just kind of everywhere. MSPs are selling more telco services. Telcos are looking for additional revenue streams, so they're branching into MSP space. You've got voice really sits there as if you don't either offer it or partner with someone you trust to offer it, it's still there as an opening for those competitors to come in. And because of that convergence, while it might have traditionally been a telco space, now it's offered by MSPs or telcos that have kind of become MSPs. So it's a really kind of confusing space, but I totally agree. It's stickability first and foremost. The revenue is great. And the revenue is an interesting one because when it comes to voice, for me, there's no one voice, right? Like if you've got Teams Phone, formerly Teams Calling, then you're in a really good place to add value as an MSP. You own that Microsoft environment. You can, design, implement, support, provision your users. There's a lot of ways to add additional value and therefore additional revenue. But when it comes to something like 3CX or any other sort of hosted platform, it may get a touch harder, although certainly not impossible. You can certainly add value, but a touch harder because it just falls outside of maybe that modern workplace environment. But if you choose to partner with a telco that provides those services, even if you're not getting much more than say 10, 15% recurring revenue, the reduction in churn from knowing that that customer's share of wallet is in your ecosystem is worth it in itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many angles in to your customers these days, right? Say you've got a CRM platform, right? Someone might go, hey, you can integrate this with your voice. with a voice solution and immediately go, hey, go talk to our partner X over here. And immediately that could lead to a whole landslide of that business slipping away from you from just that one product that customer uses being their CRM. You could look for a telco partner that has a solution that allows you to integrate CRMs with their voice platform. That's going to allow you to add a lot of value to that customer by integrating that. That you could build out a whole services arm around that or productization. So there's lots of avenues in. I remember back when I used to be a customer of Lightwire, and a long time ago before that with Brendan in different roles.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you for buying stuff off me when I asked you
you're
to.
welcome. But I remember, one of our key products that always got us in the door with customers was, what are you doing for backup? And that was our in. And then it was from there, we'd go in there with voice, we'd go in there with internet, we'd just start picking away at them. But there was always that one product that got us in the door every time. So for some people, that might be voice, might be internet, might be licensing, security, just anything.
Yeah. What's interesting for me is, so the way we're talking now about why voice, we're talking about why voice from the MSP owner or management perspective, but then there's the sales team inside of the MSP, and then there's the end user. So why would they want that? So for me, the key to selling voice effectively, particularly as a telco with my own sort of hat on, is you've got to give the why do I care answer, or an answer to the question, why does it matter to me individually as a person within an MSP rather than just the MSP in its entirety, or for the customer of the MSP. And I think for the BDM, for the salesperson, account manager, whatever, where they're looking to sell an upgrade, a project, professional services, a managed service contract, if they can find opportunities for efficiencies to be gained, productivity enhanced, or savings made through the voice platform change, they're on an old physical PBX, they're on some sort of horrific hosted platform charge, they're on something that's legacy. Um, those identifying those opportunities to improve the business outcomes will offset the cost of the core business they're trying to front. And the core business, as salespeople, they're probably incentivized to sell.
Yeah.
So it's an enablement. It's a way to achieve the outcomes that they're essentially incentivized and targeted on achieving.
Well, the
You would have had
sales,
experience with that, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, the salespeople are out there, right? They're solving problems for their clients, and you might not necessarily have the product in your back pocket at the moment, but everyone needs voice. Everyone, um, arm your sales team with the right tools to successfully go out there and sell and get into businesses. You've got to get in the door to sell them something. If that's not your core product that you're going in the door with, at least you're getting in the door to have that conversation.
yeah. And so, from an end customer point of view, if the savings or um, productivity enhancements offered by the voice solution the MSP is referring and or selling directly offset the costs of the professional services contract, the managed services contract, then fantastic. If the new features drive profitability through things like no longer diverting calls to mobiles, through having staff able to work from wherever because they've got mobile. Sorry, I was going to say Teams calling, Teams phone,
Mm-hmm.
Teams phone app running, or 3CX. Um, that's genuinely enticing for an end user. It helps pull the whole thing together. So I just think, again, when you're in our situation, it's about going to probably three layers, right? It's the MSP owner or management, the sales team themselves, and the end user, and going, here's why you should care.
Yeah.
Here's why voice matters. So yeah, it's funny though. Like I was thinking about this the other day. I reckon if you go back 3 or 4 years, shows how little I know, which is a bad thing to say in a podcast from trying to tell people things. But still, I didn't see voice having this lifespan. But I think just as the feature sets evolved and more features come out, and it's able to add so much more to the way we communicate and collaborate and interact with end users, and um, check in on the way that we're the reporting and quality assurance tools allow us to really drill in on how our team's interacting with our clients. It just keeps getting more and more life to it. So it's probably gone far past where I thought it would.
Yeah, 3 years ago, there weren't as many people working from home. It used to be really easy just
That's
to
true.
kick that old voice solution down the road for 5 more years. Whereas now it's like, no, you've got to have a solution that works from anywhere. And that is giving voice an extra life, I think. Um, video as well ties into that, and then that ties into unified comms platforms and where it does everything and integrates with everything, right?
Yeah, and I think that's it. When I say voice, I really mean unified comms. It's just kind of a catch-all, easy
Mm.
word, less syllables, which is nice. Um, I guess if we take Nigel Moore's approach and say that anything less than an MSP with less than 50 staff should probably refer voice rather than sell it directly. What do you think the benefits are at that point when you can sell it directly? Why would you?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier at scale if you've got all the billing systems set up, if you've got product teams and knowledge, and you've got, a whole bunch of products where you can share that knowledge across, right? So, if you've got a modern workplace team that knows Teams inside out, that can do the phone telephony element of that, if they can then take that knowledge and apply it across 3CX or some other kind of voice platform there. And then they've got those rebilling engines or integrations that allow them to easily kick that back to finance. It makes total sense that they can do that. But those smaller guys don't have that. And that is where the biggest barrier to people taking up voice from a partnership perspective comes from, is no one has those core skill sets. And a lot of people don't want to muck around with the effort of rebuilding voice services.
Yeah, it's true. And look, the margins, you're not going to get sort of 50, 60% margins on voice. You're going to
Mm.
get, probably 15 to 30 is sort of ballpark. So it's about what extra value you can wrap around that. Are there MSP charges that can be associated with the voice? Because otherwise you're right. If voice isn't easy, if you can't integrate it into your billing platforms, if you can't automate it to some extent, then the overhead is going to easily outweigh the value in dollar terms.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very fair point. But I think if you are going to refer it, the revenue can scale because it's so low touch. It's whatever you're getting is just money for nothing, basically. But there's that reduction in churn that adds value as well, which is less tangible. But certainly, I'm sure you could pull out some stats on churn rate for customers without voice, churn with those that do. But once you've identified that it's important, whether it's being sold directly or being referred, I was thinking about how you can actually make sure that it's front of mind. And when thinking about MSP owners or MSP managers, for me, it's they really have to set it as part of the KPIs for their sales team. Like they have to
Yeah.
kind of go, um, because we've identified that churn is less when we have the entire ecosystem within our control. Then I want 40% of clients, 60% of clients, whatever it might be, to have voice through that
Mm.
model. And I'm not sure how many MSPs I've really come across that have set that requirement.
No, I haven't either. That would be an interesting one to try and get some numbers on for people. We
Yeah.
can have those
Oh, there you
conversations.
go.
The other thing that jumped into my mind though was that there are MSPs well above that kind of 50-seat staff or floating around there where they're just outright, voice is not part of my strategy. I like doing this, my staff like doing this, but I realize that our clients need voice and I still want to protect them. I want to give them a good service. And that's when rebate models really come into to their own.
Yeah, but even in that scenario, right? So that in that channel partner model, as we call it,
Mm.
the owner who's decided that it is important that they do want to create that moat, they have to still ensure that happens, that the BDMs are incentivized. So if they set a target and go, hey, it's 40%, 60% of our clients have this voice service or one of a selected group of voice services, they need to put some incentive behind that requirement. It's not just going to happen by itself. Because often what I do find is the people who run the MSPs, they're really engaged. They're like, hey, I get it. I know why I want this, but it doesn't feed through the organization because the KPIs all relate to the MSP's core, fundamental services, and the commission offered again relates to those fundamental services, and that comes back to that whole thing about right. Well, okay, how are the BDMs incentivized to give a shit? Pretty much, and then what are you actually offering to the end user to get their buy-in? And I think that's where if you're partnering with the right telco, whether that's at a wholesale perspective or as a channel partner, you should be able to lean on them and go, help me make both my clients and my sales team care. What can you offer me? And I think that makes a big difference.
A huge difference. And it just got me thinking about then is, you know, co-selling, when you've got like we do it with our channel partners, right? They go out there, they go, hey, I got this great opportunity. Customers indicated their invoice, like, can you come in as the expert and just rip this apart, give them a demo, and then we'll take it back over from there. And sometimes that's what they need, as that hand holding, that kind of motivation to go sell, because they know that they can close the deal. They've got the relationship with the customer. They just need that little bit of extra help with the technical know-how.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something there, the demo, the trial too, right? Give your customers a risk-free way to engage.
Mm.
I think that's probably particularly useful with Teams Phone because as the MSP, you're going to have access to the licensing. Well, you were telling me there's it's like a trial SKU or something there.
Yeah, there's a new Microsoft Teams phone trial SKU, 25 licenses for a month for free.
It's not bad.
Hmm. Certainly helps
Okay.
with
So
even demos, but it also helps with getting through proof of concepts. And once you got that kind of built up, it goes, you crank it into production. So you've kind of already done the work. So it's,
that's
it's
it. That's
it's
the
a real
beauty of
win.
Teams Phone, right? Like the proof of concepts actually really it's
It's
a real
soft.
complete POC. Like it's because while you don't have to go into production, you can still set up the IVRs, the call flows, the queues. You can basically make sure that everyone's happy with the experience, the functionality, which you can't really do with at least the type of trial we offer for 3CX. But with Teams Phone, you really can.
Mm.
And like you said, once it's set up, as long as you make sure you set the right domain at the outset, you can basically throw it into production once you give it the tick.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good way of closing. Once it's
Yeah.
in there, it's probably got 90% or plus success rate.
Something I've learned today is if you drink beer instead of coffee while you're doing a podcast, you have to think about the burp consequences of that and how audible
Yeah,
they are in the microphone.
yeah. I feel
So
sorry
apologies.
for Romain. Yeah,
Yeah, producer over there, the headphones on. We are the worst. Okay, so I said we plural because actually I just saw you having a swig. So good, not just me. Right. So I guess just to cover off on that, then just to wrap this all up. You got two scenarios: refer your voice to someone else, buy it at wholesale and resell it, package it up, add value. Whether or not that makes the right, whether or not one of those solutions makes more sense than the other is probably going to come down to scale, building capability, in-house development and automation expertise, and for me, really, probably the product you're looking to sell is huge as well because I know Teams Phone for me, while the functionality is limited and it's not going to suit every end user, it is more intuitive in terms of being able to add value as an MSP, just the way it fits within that modern workplace environment. Uh, and from there, if you have decided that it's important for your business as an MSP, then the next step is to think, right, well, how do I incentivize the people who are actually on the ground talking to clients? And how do I incentivize the clients? Because it's not just going to happen by itself. So, and then when it comes to thinking about, well, why is it important? That really for me is stickability, revenue, both through lack of churn, but also through either the rebate or the wholesale margins. And what else did we say was super important or a good outcome from selling voice? Stickability, revenue, and we said something forgotten. There's probably a
forgotten.
third thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
Oh well.
was.
Doesn't always have to be three. I feel like I always work in a rule of three. Like you
It
ever
was,
know when you're
nah,
writing
it was
something.
it was keeping other people out. That
That's
was the
pretty
other.
much the same thing as churn though. So I feel like
Good
we
churn.
doubled up. Yeah. I feel
We
like there's
doubled down.
stickability, churn.
Let's go with top
But I do feel
2.5.
like cool. Okay, fine. But I do feel like I work in a rule of three. If I'm ever writing like a document, I do like something, comma, and, which leads on to another thing. Should you put a comma before the and? I've had fairly big arguments about this with people, mostly just my wife, in recent times. So that's a whole different thing, but we'll get into some sort of a
I think I'm gonna go with
off script.
do what Grammarly says. And
Grammarly wants
then
me to hyphenate everything, and I don't want to do
they're
that.
big on
So no.
hyphenating. I don't know why. It's not big in kind of English NZ, but
Yeah,
it's been
I'm
forced
not going
upon
to do
us
it.
of late.
Yeah. Also, there's some people in this business who use Grammarly who keep trying to get me to accept changes that make no sense to track documents. So at this point, not a fan. Yeah.
Not me.
No, not pointing any fingers, Jack. But anyway, that's fine. All right, cool. Well, we should probably leave it there because Jack's going to kill me. So, Nick, thank you for talking things voice.
Catch you next time.
Sweet. And that's it for another episode of Insights as a Service. Nick Phillips, 2 L's on LinkedIn, Nick at insightsasaservice.fm, Brendan at insightsasaservice.fm, Brendan Ritchie, that's RITCH, that's an important distinction, on LinkedIn as well. All I've got left to say is thanks for listening. Catch you later on.